Venus retrograde in the birth chart. Okay, so if you're born with Venus retrograde, Venus was moving in backward motion when you were born. Now, Venus is the planet of love and how we relate to ourselves and others, also known as relationships. So those born with Venus retrograde tend to express love and do relationships a little bit differently than those born with Venus moving in forward direct motion. Venus retrogrades question and sometimes completely reject their social and cultural conditioning when it comes not only to how they're expected to define themselves, but how they're expected to define themselves in relationships, specifically how they're supposed to act in relationships, gender specific roles, how children are supposed to be raised, the purpose of relationships, and things of that sort. Because Venus retrograde tends to do relationships in their own way, which many times is very different and outside the lines of what's considered normal by the status quo. They tend to be attracted to and attract very Uranian partners that are very unpredictable, need a lot of change, possibly chaotic, maybe a little rebellious. They can be detached, physically or emotionally distant. Venus retrogrades tend to internalize retrograde, the Venus function, which makes them more focused on what they value, Venus, and what they need in relationships, Venus, versus being focused on their partners. Venus retrogrades are driven consciously or unconsciously to continually grow and evolve within themselves. And when we're strongly focused on ourselves, for whatever the reason, we're less focused on others. So the Venus retrograde needs partners that are not real needy, self-reliant, partners that are self-secure and don't need a lot of emotional support. Keep in mind, it's also possible the Venus retrograde can be so focused on growing themselves internally that they don't even get involved in intimate relationships. And they're totally good with it, which the status quo might see as strange, but it's completely not, because this is who the Venus retrograde person is. But from a karmic perspective, when you're born with a Venus retrograde, many of your relationships in this life are repeats and relives of karmic relationships from prior lives. You're just finishing up what was unresolved or unfinished in the prior life. It's very common for the Venus retrograde to feel like every single relationship is a repeat of the relationship prior. Same dynamic, same situation. The only thing that's changed is their partner's name and their partner.